March 20, 2026, the world awoke to news of a dramatic escalation in the conflict between the United States, Israel, and Iran. Overnight, Israeli forces launched a new wave of airstrikes targeting Tehran, the heart of Iran's capital, as well as southern Lebanon. The attacks followed a series of missile barrages from Iran directed at Jerusalem, intensifying fears of a broader regional war. As the sun rose, reports of bombings in Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates, and Bahrain emerged, highlighting the far-reaching impact of the conflict. This scene sets the stage for a day filled with uncertainty, tension, and rapidly unfolding events across the Middle East. Conflict has claimed the lives of several high-profile figures. Among them, Ali Mohammed Niini, the spokesperson for Iran's elite Revolutionary Guard, was killed in an airstrike. Israeli air forces also eliminated Esmail Ahmadi, head of intelligence for the Basij paramilitary unit, in an attack that previously killed Gholam Reza Soleimani, another top Basij leader. These targeted strikes underscore the strategy of decapitating Iran's military leadership, aiming to weaken command structures and morale. The loss of such prominent figures has sent shockwaves through Iran's political and military circles, further escalating the stakes of the ongoing confrontation. Throughout the night, both sides exchanged heavy fire. Iran launched at least 4 missile barrages toward Jerusalem, triggering air raid sirens and causing widespread alarm. In response, Israel intensified its air campaign, striking multiple targets in Tehran and Beirut. The Israeli Prime Minister hinted at the possibility of ground operations, suggesting that air power alone may not be sufficient to achieve regime change. Meanwhile, attacks continued across the Gulf region, with the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain reporting bombings on their soil. The relentless cycle of attack and retaliation has left civilians across the region living in fear. International community has responded with concern and caution. The United Kingdom arrested 2 suspected Iranian spies attempting to infiltrate a nuclear submarine base in Scotland, highlighting the global reach of the conflict. Meanwhile, Switzerland suspended arms exports to the United States, citing its policy of neutrality amid the ongoing war. These actions reflect the widespread anxiety about the conflict's potential to destabilize not only the Middle East but also international security and economic systems. As governments around the world monitor the situation, diplomatic efforts to de-escalate remain uncertain. War's toll on civilians is mounting. In the Netherlands, an Iranian-born police officer and outspoken regime critic was shot and seriously wounded, raising concerns about the reach of Iranian security operations abroad. In Iran, authorities executed 3 men, including a young wrestling champion, for their roles in January's protests. Human rights organizations have condemned these executions, citing the use of harsh legal concepts like moherbe, enmity against God, to suppress dissent. The ongoing violence and repression have created a climate of fear and uncertainty for ordinary people, both inside Iran and among its diaspora. Energy infrastructure has become a major target in this conflict. Kuwait reported drone strikes on its Mina Al Ahmadi refinery, sparking fires but causing no casualties. The United Arab Emirates and Bahrain also faced attacks on their energy facilities. These incidents have disrupted oil and gas production, sending shockwaves through global energy markets. The price of Brent crude and natural gas has fluctuated wildly, reflecting investor anxiety about supply disruption. As the conflict drags on, the risk of further attacks on critical infrastructure remains high, threatening both regional stability and the global economy. Economic consequences of the conflict are being felt worldwide. European stock markets have experienced volatility as energy prices swing in response to attacks on oil and gas facilities. Central banks are on high alert, wary that rising energy costs could fuel inflation. In Spain, the government has announced tax cuts on fuel and electricity to cushion the impact on consumers. Meanwhile, the International Energy Agency has recommended measures such as increased remote work and reduced air travel to lower oil demand. The war's economic ripple effects are a stark reminder of how interconnected the world has become. Espionage has become a central theme in the current conflict. Iran's Revolutionary Guard claims to have arrested 178 individuals accused of spying for the US and Israel, including some foreigners. Simultaneously, Israeli authorities detained a reservist accused of passing sensitive information about the Iron Dome defense system to Iranian agents. These incidents highlight the intense intelligence war being waged behind the scenes, with both sides seeking to undermine each other's military capabilities. The growing number of espionage cases reflects the high stakes and the lengths to which each side will go to gain an advantage. Drone warfare has played a significant role in the conflict's escalation. Ukraine has deployed drone interceptor units to 5 Middle Eastern countries, aiming to protect critical infrastructure from Iranian attacks. These deployments in countries like the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, and Jordan demonstrate the internationalization of the conflict and the growing importance of drone technology in modern warfare. As drones become more prevalent on the battlefield, nations are investing in advanced countermeasures to safeguard their assets and populations from aerial threats. War has triggered significant political changes within Iran. Mujtaba Khamenei, the new supreme leader, has called for taking security from the enemies following the assassination of key officials, including the Minister of Intelligence and the Secretary of the Supreme National Security Council. These high-profile deaths have left a leadership vacuum and increased internal tensions. Meanwhile, the Iranian government has stopped releasing official casualty figures, while independent organizations estimate thousands of deaths. The political instability adds another layer of complexity to the already volatile situation. Countries across the region are taking steps to protect their citizens and interests. Spain has completed the evacuation of its military personnel from Iraq, citing the dangers posed by pro-Iranian militias. NATO has suspended its advisory mission in Iraq, and other allied nations are coordinating similar evacuations. The ongoing hostilities have made it increasingly difficult for foreign governments to operate in the region, forcing them to prioritize the safety of their national. These evacuations underscore the far-reaching impact of the conflict beyond the immediate war zones. Conflict has heightened social tensions, particularly in Jerusalem, where Israeli police used tear gas to prevent Palestinian Muslims from gathering for prayers at Al-Aqsa Mosque during Ramadan. The area remains heavily militarized, with access to religious sites strictly controlled. These restrictions have forced worshippers to pray in the streets, fueling resentment and highlighting the broader human cost of the war. The ongoing security measures are justified by authorities as necessary due to the conflict with Iran, but they have deepened divisions and added to the region's instability. Amid the turmoil, Iran celebrated the return of most members of its women's national football team, who had initially sought asylum in Australia. Their homecoming was portrayed as a victory by state media, despite concerns from human rights activists about possible coercion. The episode reflects the intersection of sports, politics, and national identity in times of crisis. For many Iranians, the team's return offered a rare moment of unity and pride, even as the country faces unprecedented challenges both at home and abroad. As the conflict intensifies, economic measures have become a weapon of war. The U.S. is considering lifting sanctions on Iranian oil already in transit, potentially redirecting supplies to countries like India and Vietnam. Meanwhile, Iran has used its control over the Strait of Hormuz to disrupt global shipping, and attacks on energy infrastructure have further strained markets. Central banks and governments are scrambling to respond, balancing the need for stability with the realities of a rapidly changing geopolitical landscape. The economic front is now as critical as the military one. As the day draws to close, the conflict shows no signs of abating. The U.S. and Israel continue their military campaign, while Iran and its allies retaliate with missile strikes and cyberattacks. Diplomatic efforts to end the fighting have so far failed, and the risk of further escalation remains high. The war's impact is felt not only in the Middle East but around the world, affecting economies, societies, and international relations. The question now is whether a path to peace can be found, or if the region is destined for prolonged instability.